Good afternoon, members, as well as to all of the audience. I have a special feeling about this afternoon because we're being joined by some very special and extremely high-achieving men, some very young and a few more aged, if I can say that. But there's something that all of them have in common. They have all been extremely successful students, academic students, and great basketball players at Garfield High School. And before I bring them up, I'd like to say a few words about the history of the Garfield High School athletic program and academic program. First, academics. Over the last 12 years, 3 years, Garfield had more national merit scholars than did Lakeside School. And I got a couple members up here that went to Lakeside. And very few people in our community are aware that that is quite an achievement. But when it comes to basketball, and the Garfield basketball team is the 2017-2018 Washington State High School champions. Their record, historically speaking, is nothing short of amazing. Since Garfield High School won its first state championship in 1955, colleagues, they have either come in first place or second place in 40% of all the state high school championships held in this state since then. So let's give it up. That's quite an achievement. More specifically, they've won the Washington State Championship 14 times since 1955, and they've come in second in the state another 8 years. And that's about 40% of all the championship games that have been held since 1955. I don't know how many of you know, I had the honor of going to Garfield 1 year, my sophomore year, 1960, 61. And every year I was in high school, Chair McDermott, Garfield played in the state championship game. In 1961, they won the state championship. In 1962, they won the state championship. In 1963, they had a fabulous team, a couple of whom players are here. They played for the state championship and lost a cross-town rival, Blanchette. Blanchette was 27-0 that year. Garfield was 26-1. And I'd like to pause just for a second and introduce a couple of the players that was on those teams. These fellows were at Garfield in 61, 62, and 63. And they played on the basketball team during that time period. First, I would like to ask Levi Fisher just to stand up for a second. All right. Levi graduated from Garfield in 63. He made All-State in basketball at Garfield in both his junior and senior year. When he graduated from Garfield, he matriculated to the University of Washington, where he played 3 years on the varsity basketball team as a starter. And then in 1967, brothers, he was the last cat cut on the Supersonics professional basketball team. So let's give it up for Levi Fisher. Thank you. You can sit down. Now I'd like to have Willie Campbell stand up, who was on the 61, 62, and 63 teams. Willie graduated from Garfield in 63 and went on a basketball scholarship to the University of Nebraska, the Cornhuskers. And by the time he was a senior, for the first time ever, the Cornhuskers made it to a national basketball tournament. It was the NIT All you fellas know about the NIT. And he led that team during those years. After he left Nebraska, he was recruited and played 2 years for the famous, internationally known, fabulous Harlem Globetrotters, Willie Campbell, ex-Bulldog. Willie ended up graduating from Seattle University in history. Levi got both a BA and a master's degree from the University of Washington. He went there at the same time that I did, but he got a master's in higher education, and then he spent 38 years. Kathy, I don't know how anybody stay anywhere 38 years. You might be on the county council 38 years, but this cat worked for the Health and Human Services Federal Department and progressively higher level positions for 38 years. Let's give it up for Willie and Levi again. Now, I'd like to have the current 2017-2018 Garfield High School coaching staff and players do me the honor of joining me as I read the proclamation about your achievements. Come on up here, stand behind me. Of course, I'll be the tallest amongst all of us. Can y'all see them? Okay. I don't want to block them out. I'd be remiss, though. There's some other people here that I'd like to quickly introduce. Joe Allen grew up with Levi and Willie and I in the central area and starred with us on some of the Rotary Boys Club's outstanding athletic teams of the 1950s. 56, 57, 58. So, Joe, would you please stand up for a minute so that people can recognize you? And he's a 61 graduate of Garfield. And with him is Janice Castro, who graduated from Garfield in 62. I just wanted to give you a shout out, Janice, since you're here. And last but certainly not least, my sister, Teresa Gossett, and Ifoma Brenda Gold, who have been best friends ever since they was about 12, are both here. Ifoma is Garfield's coach, cousin, Brandon Roy. And so we're really happy to have them here. Let's give it up for them, too. Now the proclamation. Garfield ended up being announced during their championship game against Rainier Beach. The moderator, Francis Williams, mentioned that Garfield had just been identified as the #1 public school prep basketball program in the United States of America over the last 5 years. That's because Garfield won 3 state championship games during that 5-year period. In 2013, 2014, they were 27-1. In 2014-15, their record was 27-2. And then last year, they won the state championship 28. This year, 28-1. That's 3 out of 5 years. No other public school in the country did that well, and they got invited to a very elite national basketball championship where they, in Madison Square Garden in New York, where they made it to the quarterfinals. So without further ado, I'd like to present to you all this special proclamation from the King County Council. And then I'm going to have Leo White, and any other coach that's here say a few words. Whereas the Garfield High School Bulldogs boys basketball team won the 2017-2018 WIAA 3A Washington State Championship in dramatic fashion with a 72-63 overtime win over the Rainier Beach Vikings on March 3rd, 2018 at the Tacoma Dome. Whereas this year's championship marks the 14th boys state championship for Garfield. And whereas the Bulldogs also won the Metro 3A championship, received national recognition by participating in the Geico National Tournament, making it to the quarterfinals, and have been the most successful public school team in America over the past 5 years. And whereas under the leadership of Principal Theodore Howard II, Assistant Principals Lenora Lee, Megan Griffin, and Katrina Hunt, and Athletic Director Carol Lynch, the team is coached by head basketball coach Brandon Roy and assistant coaches Jamal Williams, Javon Nickens, Lardell Sims, Justin Cook, Cole Allen, Leo White, and Marvin Hall. And how did I do? Good. Okay, thank you. Whereas the Bulldogs were led by Jerron Brooks and Eddie Turner, they're both seniors, they're in back of me, along with teammate P.J. Fuller, who is mine and Teresa's cousin. His grandmother is our first cousin because she and Teresa and I are children of a brother and a sister. So this is a small community in many ways. After P.J. Fuller, Pierre Cockrell Jr., Jamon Kemp, Marion Beauchamp, Joe Satterfield, Jarrell Satterfield, Tari Eason, Noah Newbar. Any mispronunciation of names is all the problem of my mind, not my heart, brothers, gentlemen. Ed Chang, Micah. Well, you pronounced that. That was right. That's good. Oh, that's all right? Oh, I thought I'd messed up again. Micah Chessie and Justin White. Did I get everybody? Okay. So let's give it up for the Garfield Bulldogs. Oh, wait. I'm missing one person. Who is it? Lennon Fiddler is also, Junior is also back here. Where is he? Right here. Oh, yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm sorry, bro. Your name is going to... Now, therefore, we, the Metropolitan King County Council, recognize and congratulate the 2018 Garfield Bulldogs boys basketball team for the tremendous pride and honors that they have brought to our community, as well as for their exemplary commitment, accomplishment, teamwork that clearly exhibited in achieving the highest pinnacle of excellence in high school basketball in the state of Washington. And last thing I want to say is all four of their seniors are moving on to college. Some of them on scholarships, but they're all going to college. Just like I mentioned, that tradition started 61, 62, and 63 when all the graduates of Garfield went to school, because our coaches always emphasized both. Now dated this 23rd day of April 2018. Thank you. Now I want to give the coach, Leo White, and any other coach that would like to
Councilmember Gossett, when Coach White is taking the microphone, Councilmember Lambert hopes you would yield to a question.
So last time they were here, many of them were on the honor roll. And that's so important to not only have your body in good shape, but your mind in good shape. Would it be possible for them to raise their hand if they're on the honor roll?
The academic.
Okay. So lots of them got good grades. Okay. Well, it's an important thing for you to be getting good grades in addition. So I'm really glad that how many are going to college? Raise your hand if you're the ones going to college. All right. That's exciting. And I hope that those of you that are... I know. So, okay, so let's ask that question. That's a better. All of you that intend at some point in the next 5 to 10 years to go to college, raise your hand. All right, all the hands are up. That's what I was looking for. Good job, guys, because that's really important. You're super role models to people in so many ways, and having goals is exactly where you need to go, and being educated to make those goals is really important. So congratulations.
We just want to say thank you on the behalf of Garfield High School and Garfield men's basketball team. In Brandon Roy's absence, we want to thank the Metropolitan King County Council for inviting us. these gentlemen are great basketball players. But I'd like you to know they're more great people. They're great young men. I've been with most of them their whole career at Garfield, and they've never gave me any problem. So I just want you to know that they're also great kids. I'm gonna give way to the two captains because they're the ones that went out there and did the hard work. So I'm gonna give way to Eddie Turner, and I'm gonna give way to Jerron Brooks.
We would like to thank you guys for recognizing us as one of the best teams in Garfield basketball. And we would also like to thank you guys for having us here, even though we know you guys are all busy. And we are very thankful.
Yeah, as what he said, yeah.
Why don't you mention where you and Mr. Turner are going to school next year?
Yeah, I'm Jerron. I'm going to USC next year for basketball on a full ride. I'd like to thank every one of you guys for having us here today. It's an honor to be present for this. Thank you.
Mr. Turner wants a few more words.
I haven't decided where I'm going to school. I'm deciding between UMass Lowell and Western Oregon.
UMass and who?
UMass Lowell.
Okay. All right. Now we would like to invite each of you as King County Council persons to give us the honor of coming down and taking a picture with us. Yeah. Okay, but wait. I want Levi and Willie to go and some pictures. Come on. I'd like to contribute and I'll see y'all. Okay.
Did you know?
Those two cool. Levi and Willie. Okay.
I'm supposed to say.
All right. No, I can't fight you.